We have some big tuning changes to both Havoc and Vengeance Demon Hunter today on the beta for Dragonflight. There was just a hotfix push earlier today, before raid testing came out to kind of change some damage around, rein in some numbers. Before going into the nerfs, yeah, a few nerfs. Oops, I shouldn't have said that, but there are nerfs. Don't get too out of your hand there. Demon Hunter was one of the best classes, especially in AoE. We were really good in single target as well. Even though we have changes, I do think we're still looking to be one of, if not, well, I don't want to say the best, because tuning can change things, but we're still looking to be a really, really good spec. Come Dragonflight, Vengeance as well is still looking really decent. There were some buffs as well to some talents besides that, so let's just get into it, I guess. So if we scroll down here, Blue Toast, yada, yada, yada. It's all about class tuning adjustments based on observations and data from beta, raid testing, and feedback, and all that stuff. The Demon Hunter, the joy about being a Demon Hunter is that our letter comes first. So immolation aura damage increased by 8%. Now you might think that's a buff, but we'll get to it in a second. I think, frankly, this is just a buff for Vengeance, though. Yep, that is just a Vengeance buff. So Vengeance will be doing 8% more immolation aura damage. I-beam damage reduced by 8%. The Hunt damage reduced by 10%. Elysian Decree damage reduced by 10%. And then finally, Illidari damage reduction increased to 3 and 6%. So that is a survivability buff by about 2%. And Will of the Illidari max health increased to 3 and 6%. So that is a 2% increase at full, 1% with only 1 talent point. Now let's go over these generic changes before we get into Havoc changes, which you can see down here. Immolation Aura increase is fine. You might be like, why are they increased? Immolation Aura, it's probably one of our best abilities, especially in AoE. We'll get to that. There are some nerfs for Havoc to reduce this. We'll cover why. Reels has posted some thoughts in the Demon Hunter Discord, which we'll go over, about why this change happened. But this is kind of a compensatory buff, and at the same time, buff for Vengeance, so good for them. High beam damage reduced by 8%. This is in conjunction with another nerf down in Havoc for I-beam. I-beam was scaling pretty hard with Mastery, so I imagine that's probably why they ended up nerfing it. 8% is not too big of a deal. It'll roughly be about the same, just 8% worse. It'll still be a pretty good button, still give you Demonic. It'll still do some decent damage in AoE. Hunt damage and Elysian Decree damage are both just reduced because of the amount of things that go into it with any means necessary, right? Giving these things mastery scaling makes them really, really powerful, so this is just kind of a nerf. This is not a nerf for Vengeance because they also have Elysian Decree no longer deals 10% reduced damage when spec'd into Vengeance, so this is not a change for Vengeance, this is just a change for Havoc. Finally this, just a little bit more survivability. Putting 3% into Will of the Illidari makes it a little bit better if you just want to plop a point into that if you have nowhere else to put it. It also just makes it a little bit more tanky overall. 6% magic damage is pretty good, I will say, so making that note, especially because we take it to go down the left side, feels really, really good. So moving on to the Havoc changes. So Chaos Strike and Annihilation damage reduced by 10%. Blade Dance Death Sweep increased by 18%. Immolation Aura, so this is a upgrade we got to it when you leveled. Duration bonus reduced to 4 seconds, was 6 seconds. So before Immolation Aura, once you hit a certain level, would get a 6-second increase to it. It is now just a 4-second. So Immolation Aura itself will last 2 less seconds. First Blood damage bonus value reduced to 85%, was 135%, so that is a nerf to First Blood. Unbound Chaos bonus damage reduced to 200%, 400%, from 250 to 500. And then Isolated Prey I-beam damage reduced by 5%, and Inner Demon damage reduced by 15%. So let's go through them. So Chaos Strike Annihilation damage reduced by 10%, that is fine. We're probably performing a little bit too good on single target compared to where they want us to be, which is fine. We already are doing crazy AoE and cleave, so a little bit of reduction on single target is okay in the end, especially when it's in conjunction with this bonus here. So this is an increased buff to Blade Dance and Death Sweep, while they're also nerfing the single target portion for First Blood by about 50%. How this ends up actually working, especially with the 18% Blade Dance Death Sweep change, is it's roughly a 7% nerf in single target and is roughly an 18% increase in AoE. This is really good. Blade Dance and Death Sweep weren't really cleaving that good at all. They kind of weren't just hitting things at all, really, right? But now, because of this, they're going to do much more cleave damage. Stuff inside of Essence Break windows are going to do much more damage now to the targets around them. You're going to do a little bit less priority, a little bit less single target from Death Sweep and Blade Dance, but that's fine. I think changing this to deal more cleave is a lot more impactful, a lot more important to where we are. Immolation Aura, duration bonus reduced to 4 seconds. This is the reason why we have the 8% buff. Reducing it to 4 seconds from 6 is a 2-second loss, which will hurt how we are scaling with Growing Inferno, which is overall a net nerf to Immolation Aura. That's fine. Immolation Aura is one of our strongest abilities by far. Often it's your top damage, so really reducing this by 2 seconds isn't too big. We'll still be pretty good in like the pretty high key scenarios where this was insane. We're just not going to be as busted as we were before. I already talked about First Blood. Unbound Chaos damage, again, just a little bit of reduction to our uncapped AoE. Isolated Prey, a little bit of a reduction to our single target as well again. Also, this is a PvP change a bit too, because I-Beam was just kind of killing people in that. And finally, Inner Demon damage reduced by 15%. So this is the talent that when you enter Demonic and you use Chaos Strike, it kind of cleaves. This really, all this does is it's not going to change how it works too much in lower target counts, but because it was uncapped, they wanted to just kind of rein it in a little bit. For Vengeance, Elysian Decree no longer does that, which we talked about. Focus Cleave damage bonus reduced to 30%, so a little bit of a nerf to their single target damage. Fell Flame Fortification damage reduction increased to 10%, so a bit of a buff to that talent, which wasn't really taken. Revel in Pain, maximum absorb value increased by 50%. Again, a buff to that side of the talent tree, which wasn't really taken. And then Cycle of Binding, cooldown reduction per sigil increased to 3 seconds, was 2 seconds. Again, a little bit of a buff to that side of the tree, as well as a bit of a buff to Elysian Decree if you take both of those. Overall, not too big Vengeance changes. Yeah, they get a bit of a nerf to Soul Cleave, but in return they get an Immolation Aura buff. So Vengeance also getting a little more tanky. So really just buffs for Vengeance if in the grand scheme of things, beside a slight nerf. Overall, I think these changes are pretty good. You know, Vengeance changes are nice always, being a little bit tanky, making talents on the right side that we didn't touch a little bit better. That's great. And then in terms of Havoc, this was expected. This is just normal tuning, and even then it's not too much. Our scaling isn't touched at all, right? We still have Any Means Necessary. We still have, not Looks and Kill, Know Your Enemy. So we're going to scale very, very hard into the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th patch of Dragonflight and into the future if they keep those talents around. The more crit and the more mastery we get, we're going to do exceedingly more damage. One of the issues with Havoc is that in the past we haven't really had good scaling. So if we were behind in one of the first patches, we were always going to be behind. But now that we are in the scaling world with Know Your Enemy and Any Means Necessary, as we scale throughout this expansion, we gain more stats. We're going to end up doing more damage. So Havoc is like pretty far ahead like we were. We were very far ahead in AoE and reasonably ahead in single target depending on the scenarios, depending on how many adds you could cleave off of, how many times you could proc initiative, stuff like that. But if we're very far ahead at the start, when we have low stats, when we gain more stats, we're going to be so far ahead, we're going to just get nuked from orbit. So really, I think this is fine. Even if we're going to be a little bit behind the first tier, don't doom, don't be the end. We don't know how everything else is going to look yet. Havoc is still doing fine, especially in AoE. And we're going to get even better as the seasons progress. So now we're going to look at what Reels said. So Reels, for those that don't know, is the Demon Hunter dev, one of the devs, and he's communicated in the Discord some kind of thoughts behind these changes. So we'll look at those right now. So realistically, the only big thing that Reels mentioned, otherwise saying that the nerfs were pretty small, just expected tuning otherwise, is that in response to somebody saying, calm down the nerfs, we don't want Castle Nathria. For those that don't know, Castle Nathria, we were very bad. Reels said the difference is DH scaling is more appropriate so that DH won't fall behind as tiers progress or need to be propped up entirely on secondary systems. Essentially, like I mentioned in the meat of the video here, the whole reason behind these nerfs, the whole thought, yes, we were overperforming, but even if we get nerfed now, due to our scaling, which is really good, we scale off so many different stats really hard now. In the future, we will be better than we are now and won't have to be propped up by other systems or other means like we did before, where we were kind of in the dust and needed to be saved by the Blizzard devs, and we're able to kind of get out of there on our own through scaling because we didn't have any. So that's really the only big thing he said. But, you know, just shout out to Reels and the Demon Hunter dev team. I think they're doing a great job. You know, I'm really enjoying both Demon Hunter specs right now. I think they're both pretty fun. I think tuning will end up pretty good as long as, you know, they don't kill us and gut us at the last minute, but we'll see on that one. But I think otherwise it was pretty good. So anyways, that's the changes for today. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of these changes. Again, don't panic. Don't overestimate or anything. We don't know the full impact of everything yet. We don't know how other classes are being tuned. Demon Hunter was far ahead. So after this, we still will probably be pretty all right, pretty well off. And the spec itself scales pretty hard and is still pretty fun. But that's the video today. Thanks all for watching. If you like the video, subscribe. Really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next time.